30 years have passed from the glorious event in history of modern Georgia. On April 9, 1991, the Supreme Council of the Republic of Georgia declared restoration of independence of Georgia and based its legitimacy on the Act of Independence of May 26, 1918. Institute of Georgian History at the Faculty of Humanities at Ivane Javakhishvili Tbilisi State University organized an international conference dedicated to this important event. Head of the Institute of Georgian History and Vice Dean of the Faculty of Humanities at Tbilisi State University, Professor Teddy Dundua, officially opened the conference. He served as a session chair for the first English session. He also gave the first talk about Western heraldry in modern Georgia and the Western mint for Georgian money. Professor Dundua overviewed Western influences in Georgian heraldry and emphasized the tricolor flag of Democratic Republic of Georgia in 1918-1921 was a prototype of the flag of German Empire, while the modern Georgian flag was inspired by Jerusalem Cross, Western Europe's symbol of integration. He also outlined that Georgians in the past and present used Western mints to issue their money. Andrzej Buchta from Vytautas Magnus University, Kaunas, Lithuania, gave a speech about Act of Re-establishment of Independence and International Recognition of Lithuania, 1919-1991. In his report, he talked about all stages Lithuania has passed during the process of restoration of Lithuanian independence. Sąjūdis, the organization fighting for independence, tragic events in Vilnius in January 1991, and the influence of August attempted coup d'etat in Moscow on political processes in Lithuania. Edgars Engizers, who represented Baltic International Academy Riga, Latvia, talked about Act of Re-establishment of Independence and International Recognition of Latvia, 1990-1991. He overviewed the path Latvia has passed during the process of restoration of independence, namely non-violent civil disobedience concept and its influence on the independence movement in Latvia. Also, connection of August attempted coup d'etat in Moscow with international recognition of Latvia's independence. Sergei Tambi represented University of Tartu, Estonia, and he talked about Estonian Eurosceptics in the early days of independent Estonia, 1991-1995. He pointed out that political spectrum of Estonia was mostly supporting process of integration of Estonia with Western Europe. However, there were some Eurosceptics who were and are also active even today, although their role and influence in politics is minimal. Larry Tavadze, PhD in History, Assistant Professor at Institute of Georgian History, in his report Church and State in Modern Georgian Reality, pointed out that unfortunately part of Georgian citizens still do not feel themselves as part of fully functional social contract. Nadia Pipia, PhD in History, Assistant Professor at Institute of Georgian History, in her report about political cartoons in the journal Nyangi and the issue of media freedom in the 90s of the 20th century, stressed that editorial policy of journal Nyangi in the beginning of the 90s could not be characterized as free, since no major politicians were criticized directly, while the satire towards incumbent politicians became wittier in the second half of the 90s. Nico Javakhishvili, Associate Professor at the Institute of Georgian History at the Faculty of Humanities, served as a session chair for the second session of the conference. Dodo Chumburidze, a scholar at Ivane Javakhishvili Institute of History and Ethnology, talked about political conflicts in Georgia in the last decade of the 20th century and the interpretation of those events in Georgian historiography. Dimitri Shvelidze, Associate Professor at the Institute of Georgian History of the Faculty of Humanities at Tbilisi State University, overviewed Jordania's concept about the Georgian Constituent Assembly. According to this concept, Constituent Assembly Parliament was supposed to control and influence executive branch of the government, while power was supposed to be substantially devolved in favor of local government. Nicholas Javakhishvili, Associate Professor at Institute of Georgian History of Faculty of Humanities at Tbilisi State University, gave a speech about the relationship of Georgia and Lithuania in the last year of the existence of Soviet Union. He stressed the fact that national governments of Baltic Republic, which in fact were coordinated by Vytautas Landsbergis, and the national government of Georgia, with the leadership of Sviat Gamsakhurdia, fought for the restoration of the independence of their respective countries side by side. Bunda Kupatadze, PhD in History and Associate Professor at Institute of Georgian History of the Faculty of Humanities at Ivane Javakhishvili Tbilisi State University, showed the results of his comparative study of parliamentary elections in Georgia in 1990-2020. Javakhishvili, a scholar at Shotarostavili Institute of Georgian Literature, overviewed modernization of post-Soviet paternalism in Georgia. Both sessions were followed by an interesting discussion, and most importantly, the conference was attended by BA and MA students of the Faculty of Humanities at Tbilisi State University. Participants of conference also talked about their plans of academic collaboration.